It's 3 p.m. on Wednesday here in Seoul. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Hwang Ji-hye. We begin with news that is sure to shake up Korea's political landscape. The co-leaders of the minor opposition People's Party, An Chol-soo and Chun Jung-bae, have resigned to take responsibility for a burgeoning corruption scandal within the party's ranks. Let's get the latest details from our parliamentary correspondent Park Ji-won, who's on the line. The scandal, Ji-won, has been going on for almost a month, so there was bound to be some fallout, but it's somewhat of a surprise that both leaders have resigned.
Good afternoon, Ji-hye. The surprising announcement was made this morning following hours of closed-door meeting among the party's leaders this morning. Party leaders had reportedly tried to persuade the two not to resign, saying now's the time to resolve the scandal, but couldn't change their minds. Let's take a listen to what the two leaders had to say.
The two of us resigned from our posts to take responsibility for the situation. We will continue to dedicate ourselves to the party and to bring about a change in government.
I believe I should bear all the political responsibility for this matter. I resign as I take all responsibility. I'd like to urge you to ensure the People's Party never loses sight of its initial mission.
The two of the party's current lawmakers, Park Sun-suk and Kim Soo-min, are currently under investigation over allegations they forged contracts with PR agencies and received tens of thousands of dollars in kickbacks. After the two leaders resigned, the party's floor leader Park Ji-won told reporters that it's not yet clear who will take over as leader, but said the party's Supreme Council will continue to talk about it at a meeting scheduled this evening. Well, that's it for now, and now we'll have an update in our next newscast. Back to you, Ji-hye.
All right, thanks for that, Ji-won. Now, North Korea's Supreme People's Assembly gets underway today, a process widely seen as cementing Kim Jong-un's grip on power. The Assembly is North Korea's legislative body, and the session comes 50 days after a rare Workers' Party Congress last month. South Korea's Unification Ministry says today's convention will address the legislation and revision issues of the organizational structure and constitution, among other things. Pundits predict he will take the title of chairman of the Central People's Committee, a position once held by his late grandfather and North Korea's founder Kim Il-sung. North Korea's state-run media reports the assembly will also suggest goals for the country's 5-year economic development plan. Another scene of devastation in Istanbul after yet another horrific terror attack in Turkey. This time, passengers in the country's biggest airport were the target. Although there's been no official response yet, local media are pointing the blame squarely at the Islamic State militant group. Hwang Ho-jun has the story.
Gunfire and a series of deadly explosions ripped through Istanbul's Ataturk International Airport Tuesday evening, resulting in dozens of casualties. Reports say 3 bombers exchanged gunfire with security guards and then detonated what are believed to be suicide vests at the entry to the terminal of the biggest airport in Turkey. Turkish officials have confirmed at least 36 people were killed and nearly 150 others injured, but the number of casualties is expected to rise. That would make this attack the deadliest one yet in Turkey, after the Ankara bombing in March left 37 dead. Some of the victims are reported to be foreigners, but the nationalities have not yet been released. Although there weren't any Korean national carriers at the airport at the time of the blast, Korea's foreign ministry is in close contact with the Korean embassy in Turkey to see if any Korean nationals were caught up in the attack. Updated travel warnings to Turkey have been issued around the world, including the US, the UK, and Australia. Turkey has been rocked by a series of terror attacks carried out both by ISIS and Kurdish militant separatists over the past year. But US officials and local media are saying this attack bears the hallmarks of the Islamic State militant group. However, no official claim of responsibility has been made by ISIS. Ataturk International Airport, the 3rd busiest airport in Europe, has been considered a vulnerable target for some time, so the airport not only has X-ray scanners at the security checkpoints, but also at the entry to the terminal, which is where the blast occurred. Condemnation of the attack has been pouring in from around the world. In a statement, UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon expressed his condolences to the families of the victims and said he hoped the perpetrators would be identified and brought to justice. The U.S. government says it remains steadfast supporting Turkey and has vowed to confront the threat of terrorism. Hwang Ho-jun, Arirang News.
British Prime Minister David Cameron has expressed regret about Britain's decision to leave the European Union, but said that his country will not and should not turn its back on the EU. Take a listen.
Now, of course, I'm sad about that, but frankly, I'm more concerned about Britain getting its relationship right with Europe. That is a far bigger thing than whether I'm Prime Minister for 6 years or 7 years or what have you.
The Prime Minister said trade and security cooperation will be crucial in the future relationship. He also said immigration was a great concern among UK voters and acknowledged that the issue could pose a challenge to talks on a trade deal. German Chancellor Angela Merkel has said that the UK cannot cherry-pick aspects of the EU, adding that it must accept the free movement of goods and people if it wanted to maintain its access to the single market. EU leaders were meeting in Brussels to urge Britain to lay out its plans for leaving the EU as quickly as possible. They are now set to begin a second day of talks, but without the UK. And that brings us to the end of our newscast. More updates coming up at 6 p.m. Korea time, so stay tuned and goodbye for now.